Over 800 islands dot the British coastline, with many of the most spectacular around Scotland. This awe-inspiring landscape has been a sacred destination for over 1600 years. It was here that Christian pilgrims first arrived, establishing a new faith over a century before it took hold across the Scottish mainland. That spiritual legacy is still an important part of these islands today.
Here, live forced to relate to something outside of yourself, and that's the beginning of faith.
My name is Ben Fogle. 20 years ago, I lived on a remote Scottish island for a year with 35 others for a TV show called Castaway. Like those early Christian pilgrims, I formed a deep and enduring connection to this landscape. Now, I'm returning to discover how their sacred history still resonates today.
These islands are steeped in faith. It's in their blood. It's in the rocks.
And to explore whether the physical aspect of the landscape makes it easier to make spiritual connections.
I am just blown away. Look at this.
On this journey, I'm travelling across the Shetland Isles.
I wasn't expecting this.
To meet people whose lives are rooted to these islands' history.
If you don't know where you're come from, how do you know where you're going?
I'll visit a tiny church with big ideas.
Maybe you cross boundaries more when you live in a place like this.
Join me on a 1,000-mile journey across 20 of Scotland's magical, sacred islands. As I near the end of my journey in these sacred islands, I hit the North Atlantic. I'm almost 100 miles north of the Scottish coast. Over there is Shetland. An early Greek name for the Shetland Islands is Ultima Thule, the world's edge. It certainly feels that way.
I've been on this ferry for 10 hours now. Everything feels bigger, windier, larger. What really excites me about the islands up here is that they have a strong sort of Nordic connection. This really is going to be one big island adventure.
Shetland isn't just one island, it's actually nearly 100 different ones. Some are just rocks, most are uninhabited. The winds up here are fierce, so there are few trees. Starting in the south at St Ninian's Isle, I'll weave my way up through 6 of Shetland's islands, ending at Unst, the most northerly inhabited island in the UK. I begin my journey on a tiny island on the southwest edge of the mainland. In the past, monks and missionaries came here for quiet retreat, and I'd like to see what attracted them to such a remote place.
Peace and tranquility.
Up ahead of me is St Ninian's Isle. St Ninian's is connected to the mainland by a sandbank. At 500 metres, it's the longest in the UK. In winter, this causeway disappears, frequently washed away. Named after Shetland's patron saint, Ninian introduced Christianity to Scotland in 397 AD, 166 years before St Columba arrived from Ireland. What must Ninian have thought, crossing here?
Wow. I think if you're a druid or a priest and you want to establish yourself, it's a pretty magnificent backdrop, isn't it? Your own island, pinnacle of rock, surrounded by rugged coastline. You've got a beach over there that will sometimes be covered with water. This becomes an island. It's everything and nothing.
For thousands of years, people have lived on islands in Shetland, or come here in search for something spiritual. I'll be meeting some of them on this journey, trying to understand why. Why make a home in the middle of such ruggedness and remoteness? I'm starting with two people whose roots run deep, who can trace their ancestors back a dozen generations. On the Isle of Burgh sits the newly renovated harbour in Hamnebo. I'm here to meet father and daughter, Arnold and Laurie. They're Shetlanders to the very core, and I want to understand what that really means.
Can I come aboard?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I love this.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
good.
Is family and family history an important part of the life of the islanders? Arnold's behind the wheel. Laurie is my guide.
Well, I'm never happier than when I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
Do you like being at sea?
Oh, I love being at sea, absolutely. In fact, when I was younger, it was my dream that I was going to go away and sail around the world.
Laurie's invited me out to visit a place that's important to her and her family.
So where are we actually going?
So we're going to an island called Oxna, which is now uninhabited, but at one time it supported quite a number of families, and it was quite a busy little community there.
I think a lot of people consider the Shetland Islands as quite remote, but of course it's all down to your perspective of it. So it's
Yeah.
remote for me. But then when I look at these outer lying islands, I'm wondering what it was that attracted people to settle them hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think that we need to think on it with our 2021 modern perspective. We need to think back to how people were living 100, 200 years ago. And in fact, islands like Oxna here, they were actually very well connected, because people were moving around as we are today by boat. So the sea was kind of the natural highway. And if you were living a few miles inland, you would actually be far more remote.
The seas around here have long been the motorways of their times. Shetland is on a trading route connecting Scandinavia with Iceland. Christian priests, the Papa, first came to Shetland in the 4th century. And then in 997, the Vikings arrived, bringing their own newly found Christianity with them. This island is now uninhabited, but it was once bustling with families working the land and the sea.
From this high vantage as well, I'm trying to imagine this being almost the centre of the universe.
It is the centre of
Shetland.
the universe.
I'm not trying to imagine this place with ships from all over the world sailing past. It must have been an exciting place to be. I'm not saying it isn't now.
Yeah. I think think so, and I think that we have this perception that Shetland is an isolated, maybe insular community, and it's really just not the case. And throughout history we've got evidence that there were these trade networks up through the UK and into Shetland. Shetland really did sit in the centre of the Scandinavian world.
I'm wondering, given such a rich history here, you've spent lots of time at sea, you've spent time alone on the island. Do you ever feel alone?
Never, no. You're never alone. You just need to look about you, listen. Watch things, take time.
I'm learning on my journey that time to listen, to look, to be, is maybe what attracts people to somewhere as remote as Shetland. Life is slower here.
How do you feel when you come back here?
I just love coming back here. Just get almost silence, except for the sheep and the birds. It's just brilliant.
But this island remains special to you. Do you come out often?
As often as I can, yes. Especially in the summer months, I get to come across quite a lot.
The winter?
I have been known to spend Christmas morning here.
On your own?
He comes with a bottle of whiskey to have a drink with ancestors.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not really on my own. Ancestors are here with me.
Arnold's links to his ancestors run deep. Many islanders on the Shetlands feel a special connection with those who've come before them and a strong sense of the past. It's an important part of being a Shetlander.
My grandmother was born on this island, and my great-grandfather, and then, I don't know, it's just a line of them.
I think what's interesting is when we think about looking back, then we can trace the family tree back generations and generations, and I think in some ways we're really lucky that we can do that, because so many people are only able to trace back maybe to their grandparents, but we've got like 8 or 9 generations that we can kind of trace the lines on a family tree. Well, my husband's great-grandparents lived in that house.
Wow.
And my great-greats lived in that house, so.
How important is it for both of you to retain these oral links of the past and the history here?
Well, I think it's really important. If you don't know where you're come from, how do you know where you're going?
I think you need to know where you come from, and people, you see it when people come to places like Shetland tracing their ancestry, they always feel like something is missing.
You actually see that really all throughout Scotland, where you get Americans, New Zealanders, Australians, coming back here, or to the Western Isles and the Highlands, just to rake up their family, where they come from.
Laurie and Arnold, for me, are so many things. I'm jealous of that tight bond that they have through their ancestors. It's a beautiful thing to say that you're never alone, because your ancestors are all around you. And not many of us really have that, because most of us live a migratory, transitory, nomadic life. Whereas for Arnold, there's a great simplicity, because just there is where great-great-great-grandfather lived. And just there is where my father used to dry fish. It's there, you can taste it, you can smell it. Maybe this is what I'm looking for. I'd like to feel as grounded as Laurie and Arnold. To feel at home with where I've come from. I head for another boat, another sea crossing. My head ringing with the thought that these seas are the motorways of the Shetlands. I'm off to one of the smaller islands, An outlier where people depend on supplies coming in on boats like this. A dozen ferries zigzag daily between the islands. Some are small, holding just one car. Others take 30 at a time.
There is something really magical about arriving by boat. The spray in your face. You feel like you've actually done a journey. I'm on my way to Papastur, which is about 30 minutes on what is called a car ferry, but is basically a glorified boat. And I'm told that this is a calm crossing. I'm excited. It's quite a wild place to live.
The tiny island of Papastur is less than a mile from the mainland, and only 2 miles long. In the language of the Norse people in the 10th century, Papastur translates as Big Island of the Priests. Missionaries are thought to have settled here as early as the 6th century, although there have been people living on this piece of volcanic rock for 5,000 years. There are very few people living on the island now, but for those who do, it feels like a special place. I'm heading to meet a couple who left England 48 years ago to set up their lives here. They wanted to live by the sea. But Andy and Sabina's journey led to an experience that changed their lives.
Looking around the island, I can see a handful of cottages, small crofts. Do you know what the current population is here?
8.
8. Does that make it a lonely place?
No, not at all. I've never been lonely. We just tend to live in community, so...
Tell me about when you first came here.
We came up on our last pennies, spent a week here and decided, yes, we would accept this.
Stayed over there where those sheep are now.
And what did you know about the location at that stage?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
And did you live as hippies for those first years?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We brought our own little wooden hut with us. I gave birth to our son Thor in there.
Then we became Christians.
which slightly upset the others.
You laugh about this, but I'm fascinated how a couple with hippie tendencies, liberal, free love before you got together, found Christianity. Was it the island? Was it the time in your life?
Well, we were into seeking and meditations, and it was during one of those that I had an amazing encounter with Jesus that, well, changed my life, basically.
Can you tell me about it?
It brings such an emotional upwelling that it is very, very difficult to speak of graphically. I had always maintained in the sort of New Age thing that all paths lead to God. But I must say now, I think if you seek, you will find. And to me, the person of Jesus is what is important. Christianity has so much baggage in a way, doesn't it? And I was very anti the established church, etc. Well, as hippies, one was pretty anti all the establishment. So that, it's a long journey from that, but it's been a jolly exciting one and a very worthwhile one, and I'm sure kept us together.
Absolutely. And there's something about Shetland, it's like an end-of-the-road place. And people come up against themselves. And that's what happened to me, really. I came up against myself. Thank goodness.
Do you think you're almost forced to expose yourself when you live in isolation like this, or relative isolation?
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure that's why people do that over the centuries. It's like these early Celtic monks that, they went off to be totally isolated, and somehow expose themselves to, like, who I really am. There's no internet, there's no telly. In those days, whatever there was no of, there was no of it. I think we feel like we're sort of standing on the shoulders of giants, that there's always been like a praying presence here.
Is this a sacred island to all, or is it a sacred island for those who find it?
Well, I certainly think it's what we would refer to as a thin place, isn't it? A sort of, heaven is very close sometimes. So I think there is something special. I mean, in the old days we were into sort of ley lines and things. Who knows how God's tapestry works of these sort of spiritual joinings together and through the centuries. I think it's amazingly exciting.
The idea that heaven is close intrigues me. It's easy to come to terms with the idea that God is closer here. Everywhere that I land is beautiful. Perhaps I've been thinking the wrong way round. Andy and Sabina haven't run away from something. They've run to this place.
I think a lot of people are drawn to islands because they are escaping something, and if you're escaping something, you're also looking for something, you're searching for something. So from an outsider's perspective, it's no surprise that Sabina and Andy found God here. They were escaping the free love of the hippie commune. They wanted to find something, and they found Jesus.
Shetland's biggest island is the mainland. Its capital, Lerwick, is a busy port town serving fishing vessels, oil and gas projects, and increasing numbers of huge cruise ships full of tourists. Further north, the coastline is a wonderful place for collecting seafood. I'm joining Akshay Borges, a chef, as he goes foraging.
Akshay, you are completely showing me up, by the way.
Akshay is originally from Goa, but he's made his home in Shetland after taking a leap of faith. And he has no fear of the cold.
Can I just say, I think I've got 4 layers on.
Yeah.
And I'm still cold.
Well, I've been here for like 10 years, and I miss home. So this is the best place to be, near the sea.
Why are you humiliating me like this? What are we doing?
We're just going to collect some seaweed today.
I'm going to keep this on. This is brilliant. Do you get used to the cold out here?
Yeah, after 10 years of many winters, you kind of get used to it.
So tell me about this weed in particular. Why are we going for this?
We are going for the green one, like the sea lettuce.
Oh, the one that's right down at the bottom?
Yeah.
I see.
There's some here.
Yeah.
Like the common name is sea lettuce.
Yeah.
It's like, as you cut it just a little bit from the top.
Yeah.
You can see how green and vibrant. It's like full of like minerals and vitamins and everything.
Yeah.
You can do like many things with this.
Can you eat it now?
Yeah.
The salt is
Yeah.
obviously overwhelming.
Yeah. You can make it into seaweed oil. You can just use it like in your salads, so it's like really easy to work with.
So this is it over here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Akshay was at university in Edinburgh and was about to go home to Goa when he decided on Shetland. I can't help wonder why.
Yeah, that should be plenty.
What took him here?
That's loads.
How did you end up leaving Goa for Shetland?
Well, after university, I was still looking for jobs. So in the search, it came like, oh, there's a trainee job in Shetland. So it wasn't the job that got me. It was like, where is Shetland? So I spoke to my mom, because we are like Christians and stuff. She's like, oh, you should read the Bible and you'll get the answer for this. So I did read the Bible. But I was like, okay, it's still like, what should I do? So what I did, I took a coin, like a 50p coin. I was like, heads, I'm heading up. Tails, I'm going down south, like to London or England and something. So I was like, wherever the universe decides, I'll go. So I like flipped it once and it was like, head up. And I was like, okay, I'm packing my bags.
What a story. We're allowed to get out now. We've got to get a jacket on you.
Deciding where to live on a leap of faith is something I would have run away from. But for Akshay, this seems to have worked out well. He now works here as a chef. He told me that as a child in India, he was always helping his mother to cook food for house guests, earning a little bit of pocket money in return for chopping ingredients. On Shetland, he's embraced the seafood culture, which reminds him of his own culinary start in life. And tonight, he's cooking for me.
Goans are like known for like their seafood, like fresh seafood. So I thought I would do a South Indian coconut curry with using local seafood. You have your freshly caught scallops, you got your mussels, langoustine, and the seaweed we forage for.
Love that.
Yeah. So I'm getting some Madras spices, turmeric.
Akshay's decision to move here, on the flip of a coin and a look at the Bible, is one few people would make. It was a big leap. A leap of faith, maybe? I can't help wonder if he thinks back to that moment when he flipped that coin.
Was it a risk, though? This is the question.
Yeah.
Was it blind faith? Was it what people describe as faith? Because I think we all have a decision in our lives where it's a crossroads.
Yeah.
And according to that decision. And I'm wondering whether it's that age-old question, is it destiny?
Yeah.
Is there someone, is it divine intervention?
Like some life decisions, you have to just like go for it. But it was also a bit of faith as well, because I've been brought up in like a Christian background, and having that faith be like, yeah, there is, if you do the right things and, you know, stay humble, work hard, and, you know, stay kind, and, you know, be nice to people, then that comes back to you and you'll still be happy. And I think that one of the things that praying does for me is being appreciative and thankful for a roof over my head and some food to eat. That's why this place has kind of made me feel like a home away from home.
Mm-hmm. That looks incredible. How you've done that effortlessly. That is art, can I say? Mm. I mean, it's absolutely exceptional. And I love the taste of that seaweed.
Yeah.
Wow. I won't forget that dish. I think my encounter with Akshay is one of my favourite experiences in Shetland so far. It is his story of how he's been welcomed and enveloped by this community. You can belong, but not necessarily come from this archipelago. Both Akshay and I have a shared life of faith, but his perhaps is more religious than mine. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't looked to something to make those decisions, but when I make that call to climb a mountain, to jump out of a plane, to get into the water with crocodiles. I am taking a leap of some faith. And a lot of people are blinded by that, terrified by it, paralyzed by it. They don't want to take that. They don't want to take such a monumental decision. So they abstain, they don't do anything. And therefore you just remain in that one place, which suits some people, but it doesn't suit everyone.
Staying in one place has never really suited me. When I was younger, I used to find out-of-the-way places I could go to be on my own. I've always had that wanderlust. But this place is special. This takes the idea of solitude to a wholly different level. Meeting people who've come here like Andy and Sabina, Akshay, people who've found something here, has reawakened that desire to find a quiet place in myself. What can I find here?
This is where I'm staying tonight. What location?
There are very few places you can experience this level of solitude. This is tonight's digs. There's no electricity, no phone signal. What's in front of you and what's inside you is all you have. Of course, I have been on my own before, but rarely as isolated as this.
I think solitude is important. I think of all the things I've done in my life, it's the one thing I haven't truly experienced. I find solitude really restorative. And for me, none of these experiences would be the same without fleeting moments of this. I love meeting people, I'm very social, but I love this. And part of needing that solitude is to clear everything else.
In the light of a new day, I head 20 miles east on the mainland to the tiny hamlet of Catforth. In the 1980s, Vic Thomas was searching for some form of peace. He travelled here as far north as he could without needing a passport. And now I'm here to ask him about what he found. One of the closest railway stations to Shetland is in Norway, but Vic has one of his own.
Vic, of all the unexpected things to find in the Shetland Islands, I didn't think I'd find a model railway outside.
Steam trains, really, being live steam, you can't really run them inside. They need to be outdoors in case they go wrong, really. But it's just great because it encompasses miniature gardening. The trees are all bonsai'd. They're real trees because I didn't want to put plastic ones in. I'm learning about alpine plants because they're miniature.
Dotted around Vic's garden, I can't help noticing a few interesting looking statues. I wonder if they mean anything.
I'm wondering what and if you have a religious affiliation.
Yeah, I'm pagan. I never really knew what it was until I started to sort of question the whole thing about religion, questioning sort of the elements of the religion that I was brought up in, which was Christian. You know, and to me, the kind of religion's based on a guy somewhere with lots of other guys wearing strange hats, being in charge of everything in big buildings didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So somebody told me that, oh, that's kind of like a pagan way of thinking. So I guess I just accepted that that's how I was. I never wasn't particularly on a journey looking for a religion. It's a way of life more than a religion. Respecting nature. I like the freedom that paganism allows me to not dictate to me what I do, how I do it, when I do it. To me, my beliefs can be inside the house, inside the workshop, out on the hills with the animals, on the beach.
So do you think your kind of place of worship as a pagan is the wider environment?
The word worship is just not really in my vocabulary. I think I'm aware of what's around me, and I wish it wasn't being damaged so much.
When I talk to you, it feels like I should almost be pagan myself, because I don't have an established religion. I'm not really religious, but I'd probably call myself spiritual in that I find myself moved by the environments that I'm in.
Yeah.
And my whole journey through these islands has been to kind of find a sense of belonging and to try and understand what it means to me. And yet, if I went back to my family or friends and said, I've decided that I am actually pagan, I think there would be a misunderstanding. There'd be an assumption that I'd become a hippie and that I was going to go and live in a yurt and I was maybe going to have some incense.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why society is so confused still and suspicious about another.
Well, first thing I did was when somebody said, oh, you're a pagan, was I went to look it up, and I discovered that it's a Latin word. It's taken from the Latin word paganos, which is heathen or rustic. And I actually quite like rustic. I'd rather be called a rustic than a pagan, but everything has to have a name.
Maybe that's what I am. Maybe I'm rustic.
Rustic is a word that allows you to sit quite comfortably with the fact that you're not going to church on Sunday, you're not part of that organised religion, and you're just sort of treading lightly as you go through life, trying to be as nice a human being as you can be.
I identify with Vic's values, being at one with nature, aware of my surroundings, the rustic. But he has stopped me in my tracks a bit. I wonder, does that make me a pagan? From the main island, I take one more step further north, to the island of Yell, the second largest of the Shetland Islands. On my journey across Shetland, I've yet to visit a church. There are, of course, many here of different denominations, but today I'm heading to one that's rather unique. It's open to people of all faiths and none, and is in a converted chicken shed in someone's back garden. And it has to be one of the tiniest churches in Britain. This feels very special. It's a bit like a bird hide, to be honest. A church with nature, the landscape as its altar. You're inside and outside at the same time.
So sweet. I love the fact that this is in a private garden but open to anyone who's passing through. It's the tiniest Catholic church I've ever been in. Also, looking around, it's obviously interfaith in here. Now, Judaism, There's Buddhist books and the Quran.
I wonder how different faith systems sit together in this remote place. Different religions, differences in religions. Anne Dobbing, the lady who owns this garden and the church, is a good person to ask.
Anne, this is amazing. Tell me where the inspiration for the world's tiniest church, but also the world's kind of most diverse church came from.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there are lots of people that had similar ideas. I hope so anyway. It's because I'm a Roman Catholic, but my parish church is a 100-mile round trip away. So when we go to church, it's 50 miles there, 50 miles back. So we built this out of recycled wood, and I got some second-hand windows from one of the local schools, and I wanted to put them at right angles so that when you sit in the chapel, you just sort of feel as if, you know, you're out in the open almost, really. And I think it's been a lovely place just to sit and be quiet. And I really do think that people need still places to just sit and be on their own, be quiet, and perhaps to be close to God, or, you know, just to be centred a little bit, you know.
Before moving to Yell, Anne lived as far away as you can get. 840 miles away to be exact, in Portsmouth on England's south coast. Her chapel is a temple of silence and a great space for reflection. Originally built just for her and her husband, she encourages the wider community to make use of it.
You're up here in one of the remotest corners of the British Isles. You know, we're not far from the most northerly island and the most northerly point. And yet you're very outward looking. Do you think the island encourages that? Island life encourages that?
Maybe you cross boundaries more when you live in a place like this. Maybe you don't take so much account of prejudices and hang-ups that you have, you know, about other people and other views. I've always grown up visiting lots of different churches, and I'm very open, and I've really enjoyed in Shetland being able to go to the Kirks and the Episcopalian Church, and, you know, to be in touch with all Baptist communities, all sorts of people here. I want to give a message to people that everybody's welcome, and I don't care what faith you belong to, or if you don't belong to any faith, you still deserve respect and welcome and hospitality.
I'm finding in Shetland that this commonality, the idea that we all have common ground, is very present. Maybe it's because there are fewer people. People are closer. They see differences and they respect them. I like it. And so I head to the island of Unst, the most northerly point of everything in Britain. It's on the same latitude as Anchorage in Alaska, and it's further north than St. Petersburg in Russia. It's a rugged, bleak, but stunning place. In 1992, the highest wind ever recorded in Britain was registered here, 197 miles per hour. The measuring equipment blew away.
It really does feel remote.
This is the final leg of my journey. You need to be hardy to live here. So it's a good place for the military. For most of the last century, there have been defence forces based here. Some of the infrastructure still litters the landscape. There's still an active RAF radar station. And bizarrely, this landscape is about to enter the 21st century in style. This old military base is about to be turned into Shetland Space Centre, from which satellites will be launched. As we move towards exploring the skies, I'm here to meet a man who's been at the forefront of a very different technology, one that enabled us to explore the waters. Willie Muirt has lived here all his life, building boats. He's one of a dying breed, but one I want to meet. What can I learn from Willie, a man living on the very edge of Britain?
Willie, I think this is almost every person's dream to have a workshop like this, full of tools and boats and wood. How long have you been a boat builder?
As long as I can remember. I started trying to build boats when I don't think I was going to school, but wasn't successful in the beginning. But I did manage to build a boat that could float by the time I was about 10. And then I built a canoe and a little pram dinghy, and then I got the apprenticeship with the boatyard here, and that really just took off from there.
I'm imagining you need quite a lot of patience to be a boat builder.
Oh, lots, yeah. It's a very slow kind of occupation, and a lot of times just sitting fediming out and looking at it and hoping you're getting it right.
As a boat builder, as an islander, do you think you naturally have more patience? Do you think you're used to maybe a slightly slower pace of life, which is conducive to boat building?
Well, I would imagine it has more to do with our kind of era we were born and grown up in the 1950s, and that everything was a lot slower. And in fact, there weren't many cars here in the 1950s, so everything was at walking speed. So we kind of just grew up with that. So doing everything in a mad rush just didn't happen. We didn't do that.
But if I'm honest, it feels a bit like I'm in a time warp now, being in here. Maybe it's because we're talking quite slowly and quietly, but it does feel like a different world. Do you think taking your time and patience is what more people need nowadays?
Oh, absolutely. Everything is done far too much for hurry and only half done.
I like Willie's slow pace of life. There's no need to rush around here. There's nothing to rush to. Here, in Willie's workshop, surrounded by hand tools and wood, it feels like slowing down. Pausing. Sitting still is something I may well have been looking for. On this journey, particularly in Shetland, I found a stillness. I began my journey on an uninhabited island, St. Ninians, a place which in the past attracted spiritual people in search of themselves. Now, I'm ending in a spot that is as remote as you can get. Just shy of the northern end of Unst, where the land collides violently with the harshness of the North Atlantic, one person has settled down to a life of prayer and meditation.
Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, both now and
Mother Mary has been here for 15 years. Her life mirrors that of some early Christians known as the fathers and mothers of the desert. They chose to live on the edge of the civilized world at the time. Like them, Mother Mary lives a simple and largely isolated life. I'm curious about it.
The sun's come out for you, Mother Mary.
Come out for us. Yes, we're lucky. Yeah, so this is the most northerly beach. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So we're really on the edge.
Do you like that? Do you like this idea that we're on the edge? That
yes. I don't think it's connected with being marginal, but it's sort of going to the limit. And I think it's so important to have edge spaces that are spaces, that they sort of define the centre, the cities. You need both. You need open edge spaces to breathe in, really.
Well, I think when you live on an isolated island, there is no escape. Now, some people could find that quite fearful and scary, but I embraced it as an opportunity to get to know and learn from other people. And for me, I think this notion of open-mindedness and realising we're not all the same is so important in life.
Well, I think when there's a big storm coming in, it makes me feel my place, you know, it makes me feel how small I am and how I have to relate to something, a power outside of myself. Because I think so much society today is based on the individual. You know, it's me, it's what I need, it's who I am and so on. But here, living in Shetland Isles, you're forced to relate to something outside of yourself. And that's the beginning of faith, to live with this sense of being outside of yourself and other people's being.
What was your journey up here then?
For many years I was a photographer, a creative photographer, and I taught photography. And I was very happy with that life. And then I moved to Wales to live as a solitary nun. And then I thought, what about Orkney and Shetland? And this thought just went on and on and on. And it was like a tapping on my shoulder. And it was quite a shock, really. I didn't expect it or plan it at all. So I didn't actually come up here searching for anything. You could say I came up here because I felt that God was calling me to come here, and I had no idea why.
I think you describe your lifestyle as monastic almost, and the house that you live in. How would you interpret that for me?
The main thing is to concentrate on prayer. That's the main purpose of monastic lifestyle. It links in with a sense of being stripped away of everything, of anything inessential, getting back to a certain simplicity. And also with my interest in the Desert Fathers and Mothers. These were an extraordinary group of people in the 4th, 5th century who left city life for the desert in Egypt. That the Egyptian desert was where the Egyptians buried their corpses. You know, it was a place you didn't want to go to. It was a really challenging place. And it challenged their faith.
What do you think I'm searching for?
Well, I've wondered what's your interpretation of sacred islands?
So I think for me, it's a journey through islands that mean a great deal to other people to try and understand what they can mean to me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think whilst you were saying that, I was thinking about the long tradition of monastic life here, the prayerful life, because I feel that I am part of a tradition that has helped us, I think of these islands as sacred. And whenever I want to read the words of God, I just look around me. And I think that's what makes these islands sacred for me, that you just have to look around you, and how can you not feel a certain sanctity here, a certain presence of God. So I don't know if that relates to what you're looking for.
I think it does very much so.
Mother Mary has me thinking. I get exactly what she's saying. Like Arnold and his ancestors being all around him, God is everywhere for Mother Mary. All around her, like with Andy and Sabina too.
I think Mother Mary's kind of highlighted a shortcoming in my own understanding of religion. You see, I think I've perhaps misunderstood religion for much of my life, because I've always seen religion as belonging within a church or a mosque or a temple or a synagogue, whatever that building of worship is. It's almost ostracized me from religion. But then she suddenly tells me about these desert fathers and mothers for whom they went to the desert to abstain from anything else. And it kind of all makes sense. I am deeply religious in that context because I feel alive right now here on this beach, but not because I feel closer to a God, the God, whoever your person of worship is, but because this has always been my place, my home, my belonging. I don't know, she's touched a nerve.
This beach on the most northerly part of the UK marks the end of my journey. I've travelled over 1,000 miles across 20 islands, and I've come to understand why these beautiful places attracted those early Christian pilgrims. I can see why people still come today in search of a connection, whether that's to God, ancestors, or the landscape itself. I've also come to look at religion and what it is to have faith differently. I've experienced a peace that I hope I can hold on to.